Hey everyone, this is Rob Stanley with FeedbackWhiz, and today I have Brandon Young. He's a private label seller, soon to be eight-figure private label seller on Amazon, and also co-founder of Seller Systems. Hi Brandon, thanks for being on.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem. So Brandon is, I call Brandon an influencer in the Amazon industry. A lot of people know him. If not, just look him up. He's an awesome person with a lot of great information. We're going to go over some great info regarding Amazon. And first, though, I want to start out, Brandon, why don't you tell us a little bit about how long ago you got into selling on Amazon and how that journey kind of began?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I would say more than 10 years ago now. Wow, it's like 12 years ago. I was working in the family business, wholesale construction supplies. My father passed. We sold the business, and I decided to go back to school, get an MBA. And at the same time, I was really interested in investing in startups and being in that world. So it's an interesting space to be in. I created a meetup group, and I started investing and then helping entrepreneurs to prove their business, to raise capital, to invest in their companies, to get them to a point where they can invest or to get their books in order, because my degree was in finance. And I really loved it, but I met my now wife, and I had a buddy who came to me and said, "Hey, I want to start a business." We had some mutual friends who had started selling on Amazon and were making really good money right away. And I said, "Well, you should probably just do what they're doing." And he says, "Well, they don't want to tell me because I'll be competition."
Yeah.
And so it ends up that they were doing arbitrage, and then they live in the same area, so they really didn't want competition. But I said it couldn't be that hard. But once I started looking into the Amazon world, I discovered FBA, and I wanted to do more of a scalable business model. So I did wholesale. I did some liquidation where I was buying like return pallets and things, and I'd tried a lot of different things. Wholesale was really well for us. We scaled very quickly, doing over 100,000 a month, like from our third month on. We were able to do. Now that was just tapping into my old connections that I had with the wholesale construction supply companies. So I was selling like DeWalt, Makita, Milwaukee, things like that.
Nice.
But DeWalt started to become blocked. So I saw the writing on the wall, and my wife is Chinese. So we're dating, but I'm like, why are we not doing private label? We have this huge advantage. We'd only just learned about private label, really. Like, we were listening to some podcasts, and some of the guys that had been trailblazers, like Scott Volker's podcast and stuff. And we didn't know how much more difficult it was than he was even leading on. But we just jumped, head first into it, made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of lessons, and persevered though.
How long ago was that you got started in this business?
So that
Like
was
kind of
3 years
full
ago.
time.
Yeah, 3 years ago, last month was probably when we launched our first product, private label product. 4 years ago was, about a year before that we'd been doing the wholesale and stuff. So about
Yeah.
4 years total, maybe 3 years for private label.
Yeah. So just if anybody's listening or watching, so retail arbitrage, basically people go out to the stores, you scan it, you see if it's something that you could send to Amazon FBA and make some money on. Definitely a tough business, but there is some people that are very successful out there. So one of the things Brandon was kind of talking about was the DeWalt thing. So talk a little bit about so people understand if they go try this, right? To me, retail arbitrage is kind of cool if you just want to kind of get your feet wet and understand some of the process of Amazon. But there's a couple of pitfalls you need to watch out. You were just saying there's certain things being blocked that you're not allowed to sell. Maybe touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so arbitrage, there's some good benefits. Like, there's pros and cons to each type of business model. Like you're saying, so with arbitrage, you're just flipping other people's brands that already exist, that are already out there. So you're able to go find a deal, a wholesale event, or a liquidation event, a sale. People like to scour different stores. And there's even different types of arbitrage people. So there's people that do thrift stores and they sell books, used books and stuff. And then there's people who go to only discount stores, like and go to the clearance section at Target and Walmart, Kohl's, things like that. And then there's people that do high-end arbitrage, where they're dealing with electronics or fashioned items like Coach and Chanel, but you can only do that with the right type of account, the right type of clearance, and it takes a lot to get to that point where you can understand how fast something's moving, how many other sellers are selling it, whether you can even sell it. So the good thing about arbitrage, I think, is that, like you said, you can start to understand that there's money to be made on Amazon, that FBA is a real thing. They'll do all the work for you in the heavy lifting. But the bad thing with arbitrage is that you're competing with other people on the buy box, and you don't really you have to, it's not really a scalable like business. To me, it's more of a job, right? If you're not out there buying and then shipping it in, then you're not making money. So I preferred something that I could scale. Another good thing about arbitrage is that you flip your money faster. If you find the right thing, you can send it into Amazon. It sells within a few days, and then you have your money back in 2-3 weeks. But with private label, you've got to create your own brand. You've got to create your own listing. You've got to market that listing and get it ranked for all the keywords that you wanted to target. You have to understand how to do data analysis. You have to understand how to do optimization, logistics. You're creating a full-blown business that can scale into millions of dollars very quickly, but you also tie up your capital longer too. So you have pros and cons to each, and it's really just a matter of where you're at with your capital and your time and how much time you can put into a business to determine like which one's right for you, I think.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Backing up a little bit to your kind of story of how you got started, did you ever do anything with eBay or anything back in the day?
Yeah, we would sell what we couldn't sell on Amazon on eBay. It's kind of like our liquidation point. Also our returns, we would sell used things. If it'd come back and it was used or beat up, then we would sell it on eBay. But it's never been something that was like a driver of income for us.
Yeah, I mean, referencing your backstory, anybody who's been around for a while, it's very similar. Like I've been in that whole space for e-commerce for 20 years, and it's like, did a lot of the same things you said, went down some of the pitfalls you went down. It's just one of those things that you kind of do, and it's that process. Luckily, there's so much out there now that people could reference and kind of learn from, that it allows you kind of this, like, they get to skip some of the steps. So, speaking of learning, so Brandon has his own course on selling on Amazon. Why don't you talk a little bit about what brought you to the point of starting that course and helping people out?
Yeah, I think there's a few things there for us. Coaching, I love teaching. I've always loved helping. And I think it's a good way. Like there's the altruistic side of it where I can help people, but then there's the diversification on the business side of it as well. So I love to give back and to teach. And I think that for me, if, I can make millions of dollars a year like I'm doing, but it doesn't, I'm only one person, but if I can help 100 people become millionaires, then I'm going to make a big difference in society, I think. And if I can make 1,000 people millionaires. So I think like I can leverage my knowledge, and I think we really figured things out. I was tired of also seeing people out there taking the wrong courses and getting the wrong content and losing money. If you just try to cut corners or, and you listen to free content, it's not going to be enough. It's going to be outdated. Amazon's always changing. There's different issues with the algorithm, the way you launch products, that you need to know the latest, greatest strategies. And then there's guys out there that are selling courses that aren't real sellers. They've never been successful themselves. They may have hit a certain number of sales, 6 figures, 7 figures, but all of their products failed because they're just not good at it. And they just make most of their money selling courses. So I wanted to be something different. I wanted to create a course that was like a college level course, constantly updated and engaging, and also from somebody who's actively doing it. And I think that that's, what we've been able to achieve up to this point.
Yeah, I have to say that, I haven't had a chance to take Brandon's course, but I will be. But what I do know from people I've talked to that have taken it, Brandon always keeps it up to date. He's always making sure that he's there to answer questions and help people. It's not like, hey, come take my class and you're never going to hear from me again, or take my course, you're never going to hear from me again. So that's one thing that I definitely think sets you apart. I see you all over social media. You and I are always talking. I see things pop up all the time. You're always out there trying to help people. And I think that's one of the things that really helps make your course set it apart from some of the others is you support that course. You're not just putting a course out there and driving people to it. You're actually getting involved with the people that are, taking your course.
No, I
So,
appreciate that. Yeah, I
yeah,
think
no,
that,
that's awesome.
yeah, to that point, like we structured it so that it's basically it was 6 classes that we would go through over the course of like 14 weeks. So every 2 to 3 weeks, you have a 3 to 5 hour class, like a college level class about a specific subject. And then once you're done with those 6 classes, we repeat them. And then when we go through them the second time, we're updating them with the latest information that we have and the strategies that we have that we're working. So it ranges from finding profitable products, data analysis, all the way through to launches. And then part of the launch strategy, there's a 5-hour class just on PPC. There's a 4-hour class just on chatbots, for example. And I don't think that those are long enough. I probably have to break those this time around. I'm probably going to break PPC into 2 classes, and chatbots we're going to break down and probably do 2 classes. So we're constantly going through, and then every single week on top of that, we do office hours where every Monday we do an Ask Me Anything. We talk, we answer any questions for the students. But the most powerful part of all of it is not the constant learning in the classes. It's the community that we're building. So we have a mastermind in the inner circle with 250 students, and we teach an abundance mentality. Like we really try to push everyone to lean on each other and to help each other, because there's so many products out there that we can sell and so many things that we can do that you can literally help thousands of people make millions of dollars each, and it probably won't cut into your business at all. And so that's the message that we need to get through to everybody, is that we're all here to help each other. So if you ask a question in the group, you're going to get 5, 6, 7 answers within a few minutes. People are always looking for an opportunity to help each other and to support each other. And we've got 25 guys in that group that are already doing 7 and 8 figures.
Awesome. That's awesome. All right, well, let's dive a little bit into this course and kind of what you're teaching. I'm assuming that you're going to probably talk about like products to avoid. Why don't we talk about that? Or, I mean, obviously your goal is to talk about products that make you money, but there's also like a list of things you should avoid. So maybe for anybody listening, let's give them a few ideas of things they might want to avoid.
Yeah. So categorically, I like to avoid a few different categories. So I would say you want to be away from cell phone accessories. You want to be away from electronics. You want to be away from supplements, unless you really know what you're doing and you have deep pockets and you're connected at Amazon. You're going to get attacked. You're going to have low margins. You're going to have a lot of Chinese sellers that you're competing against in almost all these spaces. Beauty's probably up there, like maybe 4th of what to avoid. But just understand that there are tons of products that are low-hanging fruit where the majority of the sellers on Amazon are bad at Amazon. So as much as I tell people to avoid a few categories, what we do is we qualify each product through data analysis. So we work backwards. We look at the top 10 sellers of every single product. We understand what keywords they're ranked on that are generating sales for them. So what are the keywords that they're on the first page for? And then the problem is a lot of people don't look at keywords to begin with. They just look at one search term and then the sellers on that search term, which is it's not a good strategy. But here's another issue. If I only look at one seller and then that guy's not very good at Amazon, he's just okay. He's only on 20 keywords that he's getting sales on, but there might be 50 potential good keywords that he could be getting sales on. And he's missing out on 30 of them. How do you know that? So what you need to do is you need to look at the entire market. You need to look at the top 10 sellers. And then once you combine all that data together, what you get is a master keyword list with pretty much 95% of all the good keywords that you could be using to sell that product. And then you can see how good each seller is and by understanding how many of those keywords they're on. So the best seller might only be on 30 of the 50. The next guy's on 25 of the 50. The next guy's on 20 of the 50. And then that's an opportunity for you to come in. That means it's a lower risk product because you can be better than them. But if, let's say, you look at that same product and 5 or 7 of the guys are on almost all the keywords, then that's a product that you don't want to do because it's going to be too high of risk. Those people are entrenched. And a lot of people give weight to reviews, how many reviews the competitors have and their listing style and how good their listing is. To me, that's all secondary. What matters most is the keywords. So if you look at those keywords and you see that there is a demand that is not being met and you can meet that demand, then that's a product you probably want to do. The second part of that is that we also teach about, by choosing products, we also teach about opportunity. So every single product that we're looking at to potentially do, we give an opportunity score and a risk score. So the opportunity score to us is how many total keywords there are above 300 or 500 exact searches a month. What that means to us is that if a product has less than 10 or 15 good keywords, it's going to be very easy for other people to compete against you that aren't even good at Amazon. They're going to be able to guess and find those keywords. They're going to be competing for the same, everyone's going to be competing for those same keywords. And you're not going to be able to be wider than your competition, which is the advantage you have if you learn how to look at the data correctly and target those keywords like we teach you how to do and how we do it. So really what you're doing is you're removing your advantage, and then you're jumping into a space that's going to have a shorter lifespan and more competition. And it's just not good. So opportunity score is important too. We like to see, products with at least 15, 20 keywords minimum. And then anything with more than 30 is going to be considered high opportunity. But so you have to combine an opportunity score and the risk score, put it into your pipeline, and then keep looking for products. And eventually, if you fill up your pipeline, the more products you find, the lower your risk in this business is going to be, because you're just going to start, the cream will bubble to the top.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, to back up slightly, I came from the world of cell phone accessories, and I was very successful at it. But anybody asking, I would tell them, don't start in that. I would not get into that field. It is very cutthroat. Luckily, I had a long history going back of being in the very early days of it. But I do want to point out something or ask something, actually, for anybody who's watching or listening. They might say, hey, Brandon, that's great, but I'm thinking to myself, there's 1 million people selling on Amazon, and how do I, is it worth getting into? There's, seems like there's people every day getting into it. So people that are thinking that, like, I'm sure you get asked that question, right? Like, hey, there's 1 million people selling on there. Why should I sell on there? Or how do I get started?
I think that a lot of people, they ask me in the form of, is the opportunity already passed? Like, this is a gold rush. Is it over, right? So you got to remember that the majority of people coming into Amazon are not selling private label. They're not creating their own brands like we teach you how to do, or like what we do. They're doing the arbitrage thing or the wholesale thing, and they're relying on these other big brands and looking for these deals. And that's becoming saturated. The other part of it is that the majority of people coming in are going to fail because they're learning from the wrong people. They're learning the wrong strategies, and just naturally people give up, right? Before anyone takes my class, I qualify them. I have them watch my master class, which walks through all that data analysis and research. It's like a 5-hour class. And I say, after you watch that, you'll know whether this is the right business for you, because I'm going to show you everything that's involved with how we do what we do. And I won't let you into my inner circle, my course, if you are not going to put in the work to do exactly what we teach you how to do. Because I have no desire to take money from people that aren't going to take action. I don't need your money. So don't give it to me if you're not going to come in and work. And I have no desire. I'll feel bad if I take your money and then you come in and fail or don't do any work. So I'd rather qualify you, make sure that this is the right business for you. And there's guys out there that have sold 10,000 of their courses, but they have a success rate of 3%. Yeah. A, the content's not very good, and B, they don't qualify anyone. C, they don't give the ongoing support. Things change. They're not seller. There's a ton of reasons why. But I don't want to be that. I want to have an 80, 90% success rate with my students. Not everyone's going to be successful, and I know that. And this isn't for everybody. And some people are going to think it's right for them. But at the end of the day, it really takes hard work and dedication.
Absolutely. So speaking of that, if somebody's like, hey, I got a full-time job, but I want to get going in this, do you recommend, I mean, obviously we don't want them to quit their job, but they're going to have to dedicate some time to this. This is going to turn into a full-time thing. So if you're only dedicating a little, the weekend or a couple hours here and there, you're not really dedicating. And this is some of the reason I think why you probably pre-screen, right? You're looking for that person that it's okay if you got that full-time job and you want to be in this full-time. I've been there. Before I started my business, I was working full-time and kind of figuring out how to get it going. But I love the fact that you're screening everyone to kind of find those people that are going to be successful, because the ones that are successful are going to want to go out there and kind of cheerlead for you, right? Hey, I'm successful. Brandon got me there. So somebody who's just saying, I want to get into this part-time, kind of what's your recommendation to them? Like, what steps should they take to kind of ramp up to be a full-time seller, private label seller?
Yeah, I think it really matters how much capital. Don't start this business unless you have $5,000 to $10,000, first of all, to invest in it. And I don't recommend you take out debt to start this business. So another thing is, I see a lot of guys out there teaching courses who will teach them how to take out a credit card to leverage a credit card to start the business. There's one guy in particular who I won't name. Mostly, it's just ridiculous. Like, this is a risky business. Like, I'm only right 80% of the time. I can show you how to find a low risk product that you have a 90% chance of success on, but that's still only 90%. And what happens if you borrow that money and then fail? Now you're in debt, and it could ruin lives. So don't start this business unless you have at least $5,000 or $10,000. And then if you're not going to dedicate 10 hours a week, I think about with 10 hours a week, I think you can start your business. You can come in, you can learn, you can start to develop one product. And then the goal would be to do the research, source some samples. We show you how to consolidate samples. We have logistics contacts to help you, that we allow you to leverage to consolidate samples, save you money. We have, all sorts of resources for you for China and all that, because a lot of people are overwhelmed by that. But get those samples in, look at them, buy your competitors' products, compare them, look at optimizing, placing your order, and then launching your product. You can get a product from zero to in Amazon selling and ranked, making you money, within 20 weeks probably, right? So that's why our course takes about 16 weeks. And I think that it might take 20 weeks this time, because we're gonna have some extra classes on PPC and things like that, like I said. But I think 10 hours is fine. If you have more time and more capital, like, those are your two restrictions in any business, and especially this one. You're restricted by your time and your capital. When you run out of time, you hire people. When you run out of capital, you borrow it. Eventually, when you're confident, like, you can borrow to supplement for what you've already launched, but you can leverage capital, lending and things like that eventually too. Once you're more comfortable, but don't start your business with lending.
Yeah,
So,
that's some great advice. Yeah, you should definitely make sure. I don't want to say it's a disposable income, but make sure it's an income you're willing to live without. That $5,000 or so that you start with. Don't take out a mortgage or do something stupid like that. That's just not the right way to do it. If that's the case, do some learning, save some money, sell some stuff on eBay or something, right? If you want to raise that money.
That money laying around, like you said, they have that money laying around. They don't even know it. Like, if they cleaned out their garage, instead of doing a yard sale where they're getting rid of stuff for $1 to someone that's going to go buy it and sell it on eBay for $15, they could just sell it on eBay for $15, right?
Exactly.
So, like, if you start cleaning up and saving up and doing it, most people can stash away 5,000 or 10,000. Now, I show you in the class also, like the master class, I'm very specific about, this is the type of product this is the landed cost of the product. This is how many it sells a month. This is how many you're going to need to order. Here's some additional money for marketing. So here's how much money you'll need to start a product that is this profile, right? Yeah. So a product that costs $5 to land, that you sell 10 a day, right? So you're selling it for 15, 18 bucks. You're making $5 every time it sells, right? Because you have Amazon fees. So you're making $50 a day on that product, but that product takes like 10 grand to start.
Yeah.
Now, so that's not a small investment, but that's $50 a day in profit that you didn't have. And the goal of this business is not to stop with one product. It's to do that 10 times. So now you have $500 a day coming in, which is more than most people are earning, like sitting in a cubicle, busting their butt, taking time away from their family, working hard, slaving away for somebody else to make money. So the goal is start with one product, learn the process, duplicate it, keep repeating these processes that we teach you so that you can build up a real income. And believe me, it starts to snowball. Eventually you'll get to a point, if you have enough capital, you can launch 2 or 3 or more products at a time, and maybe 3 products a month, and then maybe 5 products a month. You start to build a team to handle it. But now you're making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, which is far more than most people are making.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk a little bit about, they go through your course, they find this, let's just start with a product, right? They find the product, it gets going. How do they know it, or kind of what point do you say you've gone through all this process, the sales just aren't there, or something's just not working? At what point do you kind of just cut that product loss and move on to another product? I mean, I assume you're always working on the next product already, but what are maybe some triggers that you're like, okay, this product wasn't successful, let's dump it and move on to another product, or you got one in the works already?
Yeah, so for the most part, it's going to be usually products that are design oriented. Like, we've had failures where my wife picked the polka dot one instead of the striped one, and the polka dot one didn't do as well, right? And you just never know. Or like the pink one instead of the yellow one, or sometimes you just don't know. And so you'll see the conversion rates just aren't as high as your competitors. You'll do the ranking, you'll rank the product, and then it'll fall, like the rank will fall down a little bit. No matter what you do, it'll only sell what it sells. So you kind of just sell through that inventory. You turn off the marketing, you make it profitable, so you're at least getting money out, so you can get your capital back out. And you just say, you know what, that wasn't the right style, the right color, it didn't resonate. But you can do a lot of testing in the meantime. You can test your main images. You can test some price points, and you can do a lot of A/B testing to try to raise your conversion rates. And sometimes you'll take a product that isn't converting well, and then it's as simple as just changing the main image, and all of a sudden it starts selling. So don't necessarily give up without putting in the effort and the time to test some things. But sometimes you just start to learn, like, okay, no one likes this design. It really is ugly, or you just don't understand. So you move on, and so you're not right 100% of the time, and that's okay. The hard part is that if you're limited in capital, being wrong can be catastrophic. So that's what I'm trying to avoid when I qualify students. I don't want them to come into this business, pick a product, fail, and then be in a lot of trouble. Just understand that we failed a lot. We failed a lot in a lot of different ways that we're going to make sure you don't fail. But we still fail even to this day. Like, I've got 50 products I'm launching before Q4, and I guarantee that at least 5 of those will probably fail. But I know that going in, and I've got the capital to absorb it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to learn from each of those failures, and I'm going to learn from each of those successes, and then I'm going to teach them to my students.
Yeah. Let's go over a bit of how important is a quality product. Having a product that is quality, it's not cheap. Because you'll look, I mean, if you look on Amazon, you'll see, I don't know, let's go with Bluetooth earbuds, right? Like, there's a gazillion of them on there, right? And that's probably one of those categories you want to avoid, by the way, because there's a lot of people.
Bluetooth earbuds.
I'm on my 3rd set, and the first one, it was okay. Second one was better. The third one is really good. And I know how to search through these 5 stars. I mean, we at FeedbackWhiz, we help you with 5 stars, so I know what to look for. This newest set I got is really nice, but it really comes down to quality, right? The first one I bought, it was like $7. I just needed something to stick in my ear while I was editing a video. Second one, okay, a little better quality, but like, how important is the quality of the product that you're going to sell on Amazon?
Yeah, it's important. I'll say it's important to be at least as good as your competition.
Yeah.
Right. So if your rating is below your competitors, you're going to fall in your ranks. You're not going to convert as well. At the end of the day, it comes down to people clicking on your listing and purchasing it. And they're not going to click on it as much. They're not going to buy it as much or as often if your rating is worse. And so quality matters in that aspect. And I don't recommend anyone cheat on the reviews. That's just not a sustainable business model, and you get in trouble with Amazon. So what I would say is, make sure that when you look at samples from from different factories, like we always recommend you get at least 3 samples from 3 different factories. Then you also buy your competitors' products and you put them side by side. Test your samples, test your competitors' products. Then when you get a final sample from your factory, like after you decide you want to go forward, you have them put it in the final packaging and everything, and they send it to you. Make sure it's the same as the sample. Then you get an inspector before you ship it out for $150, and you have them go to the factory and randomly test a bunch of units and make sure that those are good. And so you have a lot of things you can do for quality control, and you need to do them, because one bad shipment can ruin your business. It can ruin that product. You'll just start getting them. I just had it happen. I have it happen to this day, but it's not something that even would have been testable, like with an inspector. The product looked great. It was when people started to use it that an issue arose that we didn't know on the reorder. So it was 2,000 units we sent in. We're selling over 50 a day of this product. And all of a sudden, like a few days in, I start getting a bunch of bombardment with messages saying, hey, there's an issue. The good thing is I have an insert card in my product. People knew to message me directly. I got a few negative reviews out of so many bad products, which is a real blessing, because I could turn that product around. The factory turned around. I recalled all those bad ones. They gave us 2,500 units that just hit, and now I'm relaunching that product. But I've got 4 or 5 negative reviews that slipped through that I have to kind of make up for. So I have to figure out, it fell from 5 stars to 4.7 stars now, or 4.6 stars. And it's still ahead of the competition or on par with it, and I've solved the issue. But had I stayed with that bad product, I don't have a business, because people are just they're gonna crush that listing with negative reviews, and we're gonna end up selling out of. Eventually, our sales will go to nothing, our margins will go to nothing, and then that product's dead. So you don't have a business if you don't concentrate on quality.
Absolutely. And, one of the ways we get that question at FeedbackWhiz all the time is, I've got a few negative reviews. We've always addressed it as answer those negative reviews, go tell them what happened, be real. Like if you genuinely go on there and say, hey, we had a bad batch, we're correcting it, there's a new version coming that's fixed, anybody later on that looks at that will say, hey, look, they're backing up their product. There was a mistake or issue. Probably, they're going to say it was your fault because obviously it's your product, right? But it's one of those things that you addressed it, we're fixing it, and now the new ones. And I looked at that when I look at certain products. I've seen people say, hey, that was the old version. We have a new version of it. We fixed or addressed this issue. It's important to go in there and respond to this negative feedback and explain what happened. It definitely 100%. Will help. So I want to talk about something that a lot of people don't talk about. So a lot of people get online, they're going to look up Brandon Young. They're going to see, wow, this guy's all over the place. He's having a good time. Look at all these cool videos of him. So let's really talk about, and I know this personally from running a business, that there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff people don't get to see. They don't see the hours that go in. So let's talk about on a typical day, Brandon, like how many hours are you putting in the business? How many hours you online? Maybe address what you were doing last night with your user group and how late you're on there. Let's tell them a little more of the reality of when they get a business going. They may see these people post, oh, I worked on my business 4 hours today and I made, 10 grand. Well, good. I'm glad they did. But what's the reality of this, Brandon?
I'm a unique situation. I'm lucky to have my wife as a partner who helps me with the private label business significantly. I've got employees at this point. I've been able to offload a little bit of my responsibilities, but I do dedicate a percentage of my time to coaching. So probably 15 to 20 hours a week. I'm probably putting into coaching, and I would say I put another 40 to 50 hours into our business. So last night I did a master class, for example. It was 5.5 hours long. We ended around 2:30. I didn't get home and into bed until about 5:30 after rendering it and like answering questions and hanging out. And now I was back up answering some questions from the class. I had PPC. I had to, so for that same product that I just mentioned, I woke up and I saw that yesterday, I hadn't monitored it at all. I saw that we spent like $600 on PPC at 150% ACoS. Now it's a relaunch, and in launch, like that's, you can spend a little bit more, that's okay. But I didn't understand why it wasn't optimized already. And so it kind of freaked me out. So I spent like an hour doing PPC this morning. I think between product analysis, training my staff, now I've shifted my business because I think it's really great. There's a guy by the name of Alex Sharfman who has the Billionaire Code. And if you guys haven't heard of it, it's really, really cool tool or like blog. But it talks about what you need to take your business from different inflection points. And there's inflection points at 1s and 3s and 0s. So like to go from 1 million to 3 million, you have to make changes in your business. And then to go from, 3 million to 10 million, you have to make significant changes in your business, right? So I'm at that point where I did 6 million last year. I'm trying to get to 12 or 15 million, probably 12 million this year. Realistically, it depends how these launches go, but I should hit 10 to 12. But I've had to make major shifts in my business to do that. I can't do 50 launches. I can't do 50 PPC campaigns. I can't optimize 50 PPC campaigns. I can't do the listings for 50 products. So it took me a while to be able to bring someone on, and I'm a bad manager. So I wouldn't even define success. I wouldn't define failure. My biggest weakness is probably management. So it's been a really hard process. Our goal going into this year was to grow the team so that we could grow the business, because we knew we were at that point where we were out of time, right? I told you before, you have time and money. Well, we have money, but we don't have time. So how do we solve that? Well, it's management. And, Alex talks about that quite a bit, about you need to be, instead of being a doer, now you're a manager at this point, and an operator. Yeah. And so I took myself from being really good at what I do and put myself into a position where I'm really bad, which doesn't seem like the optimal thing for the business. But yeah, I mean, I work an insane amount of hours. I love it. I love what I do. I'm very driven. I don't think you have to. I think you could make a comfortable living. A lot of people don't want to make, $12, $15 million in a year revenue and take home a couple $1 million. They don't want to do that. They're okay taking home a few $100,000 and driving $1 million business, right? A $1.5, $2 million business. Yep. At 20%, you're looking at a few $100,000, and that'll change people's lives. You could absolutely do that with yourself and maybe a part-time person or a couple of VAs. So really, it's whatever you want to do and how driven you are. But I'm pretty driven. I have a lot going on. I also invest in startups. I have I'm an angel investor. I invest in all sorts of different companies. So I'm constantly looking for pitches and talking to people. I do the coaching.
Before you get too much into investing, let's because I want to talk about that a little more, a little further in the podcast here. But okay. Let's talk a little bit about marketing. Okay, being the marketing guy for FeedbackWhiz myself, I was sitting on Facebook and I see this post come up from Brandon, and I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. Like completely genius. Why don't you tell them a little bit about what you gave away and what the offer was to sign up for your course, basically. Come take my course. And by the way, during this course, we're going to give away something. Why don't you tell a little bit about how that idea came up and what you're giving away?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. And the funny part is they didn't even take it. So I drive a Tesla, and a few months ago, I decided to get a new one because they had a situation where Tesla was closing all of their showrooms. And so a lot of the show cars and things that they had on stock, plus at the same time of closing the showroom, they announced that they were reducing the price on all of of their 3 vehicles that they have, the 3, the S, and the X, by significant, like 10, 15,000 each. Yeah. And it was like a really big deduction. So then the used market got hit really well. So I was currently driving a non-performance edition, and I wanted the performance edition, which is 0 to 60 in 2.5. I enjoy fast cars. So I was like, okay, I want this one. It got reduced, and I got it for like 60 grand, a car that was $135,000 2 years ago. And I was like, this is insane. I have to buy this. But now I already have this other Tesla. So I said, just jokingly, I was talking to a friend, and I said, you know what? I might just give it to a student. And then I thought about it some more, and I'm like, this is absolutely nuts, but it's a pain in the ass to sell a car.
Yes.
So I said, I get 200 students to sign up for $200 each. I'll just give them the car, and then out of the 200 students, I'll change some lives, and it'll motivate people to actually maybe take that next step and learn about Amazon. Because I have so many people that I know that are just sitting in their cubicles that hate their lives, and dread going to work every day. That I was like, what they need to push. So I was like, maybe the chance of winning a Tesla will do it. I'll get the same amount of money. It's like 4 hours of my time on this class. I don't mind. And I'll give away the car. The funny thing is the guy that won it lives in California, already drives a Mercedes, would have had to pay 40% taxes on it and transport it from Miami. So he's like, he took the cash option. I gave an option of $14,000 because that's the most that you can gift, plus coaching. And he's like, the cash plus coaching is a better deal for me.
Absolutely.
So I still have the Tesla. I'm still trying to sell it.
Okay. Anybody looking for a Tesla, get a hold of Brandon.
I had someone drive it 2 days ago that looks like he's finally going to buy it. But I hate to, I'm still in the same position I was in, where I still hate having to sell a car privately. It just takes so much time and effort, and it's annoying dealing with people like that. Or car shopping. I'm not a car shopper. You have
it where you could sell the used Tesla on Amazon or something. Retail arbitrage it.
There you go. I'll put it on eBay.
Yeah, eBay. Exactly.
So the other thing was last night we did a master class, which is basically the same, except for this one wasn't as wide on the subjects. It was more just about product research and choosing the right products and the data that we do. And yesterday I decided to invest in us. I picked a student randomly to invest in their company. So I said I would give you a free Inner Circle membership. Um, I would give you at least 5 hours. It's probably going to be up to 10 hours. And then I will buy the inventory. I'll help you research, find a product that we can do together. And then I'll buy your first round of inventory of up to $10,000 to help you kickstart your business. And so I randomly chose, someone in the group last night, and they won that.
That's awesome. Yeah. See, I mean, I didn't necessarily come from a marketing background other than the fact that when I ran my business, you have to do marketing too, right? So my thing was always, I had to be unique. I had a unique product. I had a unique approach to my business. I feel you're doing exactly the same thing. Nobody out there is giving a car away, okay? Especially a Tesla, even regardless whether it's used. I mean, I saw it. It's a nice Tesla. And then now Brandon is basically like backing his students. Like he's picking a student, backing it with his own money. And if I understood this correctly, right, it was something like you're gonna buy the inventory, but if they're not successful, it's out of your pocket, right? And if it is, you get 50%. Is that right? How it went?
No. So on this student, I don't get anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So this student is it's their business 100%. I'm just going to, I can use, the deal is I can use it as a case study.
Okay.
So
there you go.
The goal would be to record our sessions about what we're doing, the research we're doing, picking the product, why we're picking the product, the sourcing, the samples, recording. He has to record himself, like analyzing the samples and the competition. Maybe we'll get 2 sets of samples. I'll get them, he'll get them, and then we'll record like analyzing and discussing them. And then the whole process of the private label process of going from zero to a product launched and successful. And the goal would be to just be able to expose that to the world without having to be part of the class. So because that's what the deeper dive in the Inner Circle of the college level class is. But maybe that'll inspire some people, because we can take a product and turn it on, and for under 10,000, we can get a product that's going to make this guy $7,500 a day and probably change his life. So the other thing you're talking about, I'm going to be doing really shortly. I'm looking for students who have shown talent but lack a little bit of capital, and I'm looking to partner with them. I'm going to give them 20, 25,000. I'll take some equity in the company. I'll become an advisor. They get to go through my course if they're not already in it, or they're in it for life at that point. And I can utilize the resources that I've created for my business, the different software that we've created, our logistics contacts. We can save, like I can have my employees helping them with PPC. I can have my employees helping them with other things. So I can leverage economies of scale to reduce their cost and make them more successful and profitable, while also giving them the coaching, the knowledge, and a little bit of capital to do it.
Yeah. Let's discuss a little bit about the amount of hours you've spent in China. I've personally been in China for hundreds of hours through hundreds of factories. I know you've been there many, many times because I've seen pictures, and I'm like sitting there just laughing because I'm like, I've been in that same position. But talk a little bit about, what's the process you go through to go on a trip to China, and how many days are you there? How many hours are you putting in? What, if you want to give a little hint on things you're looking for, or I know I can say for a fact, I saw you testing an item in China at the showroom. Talk a little bit about that, because I think people are a little scared of China, and it's more the unknown, right? Like the unknown of what do I do when I go there? Who do I talk to? So maybe talk a little about that. And I'm hoping you cover some of that in your course.
Yeah, for sure. We cover quite a bit of sourcing. I teach them how to utilize the wholesale direct site. So not Alibaba, but so Alibaba, just quick background. I'll jump into China. I love China. But Alibaba is all in English because it's Chinese brokers targeting Americans or English speakers. And then Alibaba has another site that they own called 1688.com, which is all in Chinese. And then those are the large factories and distributors targeting the smaller brokers in China, who then put it on Alibaba to target us. So you can go more direct by going through 1688. We show you how to translate the page, how to communicate. We have the logistics company contact that we have will order the samples for you from 1688 if you have trouble ordering them, and then charge you like $5 per sample, like nothing. And then help you consolidate them and get you samples. And then if you like the sample, they'll put you in contact through WeChat or something with the factory directly without taking a cut. Like, it's not a broker thing. So you don't have to go to China necessarily, but I love China. China's great. I love the food. I love the people. I love getting ideas. So when I go for like Canton Fair every year, every April. I go, like you saw, I have 3 different toy brands, for example, right? I have a baby toy brand, an educational one, a regular toy brand, and a sports. So I've got 4, I guess. But I go and I'll go to these showrooms, like you're saying, and it's like 12,000 factories have stuff in this giant building, like 5 stories. You walk around, it's like you're in Toys R Us, but every single like section of the wall is a different factory. And then they follow you around and they scan whatever you want them to scan. They'll tell you the price. If you want to test it later or deal with it later, they put it in a shopping cart that they're pushing around, following you with. They feed you, give you any drinks you want. They treat you like gold. Yeah, you need a broker to get you in there, funny enough. So that's the instance that we do have a brokers for all of our toys, and it's a really good contact because it's an extension of our team pretty much, because we deal with a lot of toys. But so at the end of it, they give you a printout of everything you scanned, the name of the factory, the contact information for the factory, the price of the product you scanned, a picture of the product you scanned, and then you're sitting in a private room and you're reviewing that information, and then you have all the carts of stuff that you brought in to test and to look up, because you get so many ideas just walking around in the showroom where it's like you end up with 7, 8, I can show you pictures, 8, 9, 10 carts full, and you're going to sit there for 20 hours now over the course of 2 days, and you're just going to do keyword research and then test the toys as you're doing it. And if that's not the right factory, you go back to the guy and you say, I want all of the factory, I want all of these that are in this showroom from all different factories. And they'll bring you a cart with like 5 more from 5 different factories of the same type of item. And then you can find the one with the best quality, best price. You can call them up, negotiate. And they're all local to Canton, which is where all the toys are made in China. Yeah. And it's fantastic. Like there were many times when we would call up and they say, no problem, we'll be right there. And the owner of the factory or the sales guy would show up at the factory within a half hour with a new sample for us. Yeah. And say, hey, we have a new version, right? Like you're saying, I was like, hey, something's kind of wrong with this. And they would, or like, we noticed something. Can you do something? Can you make it a little bit smaller? We need to fit it in a smaller package so we could save on fulfillment fees type of thing, or whatever it is that we were trying to do. The guy would show up within an hour and like, and be working with us. So yeah, it's really, I love China. I just love the opportunity that's there. When you go, you don't understand what there is that you could sell, the potential, the opportunity. When you walk around Canton Fair, for example, it's the same thing. You're going from booth to booth, and it's not because you're trying to find that factory. It's because you're trying to find that idea or that item, right? Yeah. And you can go on 1688 and probably source it for cheaper than the guy selling it in the booth in Canton. But that doesn't matter because you got the idea. You got to, you got it.
It sparks something. Yeah. Yeah. No, Brandon's given a ton of ideas, a ton of information here. I mean, anybody listening to our podcast probably want to re-loop the podcast a couple of times and listen to what he said. 1688.com. Okay. That was what source I used too. I mean, when I was sourcing stuff, Canton Fair. Now let's just back up a smidge though. If you're selling on Amazon, you're just getting started. You probably don't need, just use 1688. You don't need to be going over to Canton Fair yet, right? When you start ramping up and you're getting multiple products and you've kind of got some capital built and you want to really get a good understanding of where your stuff is made, how it's being made, what the quality of it is, then you want to probably piggyback going to Canton Fair and then going to these factories. Now, people are going to probably say that, oh, well, I don't know the language. You don't need to know language. They all have a salesperson that speaks English. Everybody at Canton Fair will have somebody in that booth that speaks English. Okay, that's one.
Canton especially, you'll have everyone speaking English.
It's one of those myths.
We do a lot of factories that don't have English speakers, and that's why. Really? That's why. Yeah, like on 1688, it's even a little bit more common. But what's great is if you're chatting on WeChat, then it translates for you. So you just hold down their Chinese text, and it translates it to English. They hold down your English text to translate it to Chinese, and you can communicate fine. Yeah. If you're more comfortable using a go-between or a broker and paying a little bit more, then also that person
trading company.
That's fine.
Watch out for those trading companies. It's not like, here's the thing with trading companies. Most of the people selling on Alibaba are usually trading companies. They're not the factory directly. I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them are that way. And I've had times where I've actually started with a trading company and then eventually worked up to a manufacturer. And it was only because we needed somebody, we needed a product now, we needed to get it up and running. So trading companies aren't a bad thing, but you're not going to get your best price on a trading company. So, I mean, I got a great story. We had this person that was a sales guy. We end up at the factory. I turned to the sales guy and I said, hey, where's the restroom? He had to ask the owner. And that's immediately how we knew he was the middleman. He was not the factory. So the owner was
I had that happen where a guy said it was his factory and there's like different company name on the wall.
Well, I was like, been there, done that. Right.
Why, I mean, and I even asked him, I was like, are you, don't lie to me. Are you the factory? Yeah. Factory.
I rather do with the business with the ones that tell you up front that I'm an independent salesperson, because then you respect them more and know that, hey, they're taking their small cut, but they're going to also handle the middleman. Like they'll handle other things. Like for us, the person that was the middleman in this situation, it was fine because he paid to have a person come independently and test the product, like do random samples. So we were like, okay, the small amount we're paying him versus what we'd have to pay to have somebody come over and do a quality test on it. And then he would help send it over and get it consolidated, to where we needed. It was worth a little percentage. So you got to just weigh those little things on whether it's worth it. But yeah, your trips to China are awesome. I wish I knew you back when I was still going over there, because I think we would have just had a blast going over there. I've been into showrooms that were 5 stories high and literally just shelves full of products, and did the same thing. They said, just drop it on the floor, and the lady would come around with a cart or a basket and pick it up. And by the time you walked back in, you would have a price already and everything. So it was hilarious. All right, well, we're going to wrap this up. Brandon, why don't you go over real quick, how do they get a hold of you? If somebody wants to take your course, where do they sign up? Give them a little information on how they can get into this course of yours and get going, or at least try to qualify getting into the course.
Yeah, so probably the best way is if you're going to look for the masterclass, that is www.amazonprivatelabelcourse.com. You have to put the www. I don't know why it redirects to GoDaddy if you just put in amazonprivatelabelcourse.com, but that one. And then for the full course, the inner circle information, you could just add /full course to that. So www.amazonprivatelabelcourse.com. We also have our community, which is Seller Systems Succeeding on Amazon FBA. I have partners that in Seller Systems who teach arbitrage and wholesale. So if that's a model that's more attractive to you, those guys are ultra successful at it, and they're good at private label too. They're starting to crush it there too. But they, Garland and Max, just really genuine, nice guys. The reason we partnered up is because we're aligned in that aspect, that we're there because we care about the students. So those guys are crushing arbitrage, resale, wholesale. And so you'll be able to meet them, and then they have their course content too underneath Seller Systems. But if you need me, just message me on Facebook too. I mean, I'm always available.
He's always there. A couple quick things. FeedbackWhiz is going to be in Brandon's course. We're going to be working on that. Give it a little time. We're trying to get a special section set up on his course. And then, if you ever see Brandon at any of the conferences, he's a really easy guy to go up to, especially if you want to talk a little golf with him too. But I do have to recommend, do not race Brandon. If he ever wants to race you, do not race him. But other than that, thanks, Brandon, for being on. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, I mean, why? I'm big. I'm slow. I can't be fast.
All right. Well, if you want to lose some money, you should race Brandon. Otherwise, thanks for being on, Brandon. I appreciate it. This is Rob and Brandon with Ecom Whiz Podcast, and we'll talk to you later.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for more information, please visit feedbackwhiz.com.